Hey everyone! Hello and Madayaw. It's me, author Maita, and this is chapter 4. Now, things will get a little more complicated as we go along because the story is progressing, things are happening. Gus and Rose get closer together. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting how you see this, and I hope you guys can I don't know, comment maybe on how you think this is doing great, it's not doing great, where's my strongest suit, where my weakest suit is. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, I'll be reading a chapter every night. This is chapter 4. Chapter 4 of Big Bad Wolf Meets His Big Beautiful Mate. Chapter 4. A wolf named Gus. Marcus frowned at the report from the security team. Force was one of the wolves he put in charge of that department. He was very thorough. These reports did not look very good for wolves. Petty thefts of customers misplacing their things. Nobody could tell. He couldn't even see it in the security footage. Perhaps it was a case of misplacing things. It was concentrated on the casino. Many customers lose their things, especially in the casino where they offered a drink all you can during happy hours. The drinks included alcohol. Those tend to impair judgment. He closed his tablet and looked up at the dungeon. Gus had outdone himself. This was a masterpiece. Speaking of Gus, the werewolf was directing the hauling of a large carriage wheel that he rigged with lights. It was one of 24 that would be the dungeon's light fixture. There would be red and purple laser lights on the dance floor, but they wouldn't know where it would come from. He and Gus consulted with the best lighting technician in the world to get this right. His beta would be proud as well. Gus's sleeves were rolled up, but his mask was in the right place. His suit jacket was missing, but he was still immaculate. Marcus and Laika demanded every staff, werewolf or otherwise, had to look pristine. Marcus insisted they wear armor, and a well-tailored suit was the best armor. Marcus remembered the young pup, barely 40, a veritable child in werewolf age, always hanging around town looking for his purpose. When he turned 70, he rushed to the leaky pub and applied to be one of Marcus's wolves. A year later, his twin came hunting for him and found 10 wolves masquerading as businessmen. She kicked their asses and became their beta. Marcus had to console Gus. He was a fighter, but Laika was just too strong. Marcus put a good fight, but he decided to yield and let Laika in the pack. She proved efficient. Gus proved his talents were in construction and DIY. When they started to take on the world, he made it clear Laika would serve them better if she ran HQ. He took Gus with him. Yeah, he put up with Gus's occasional tantrums, but he'd have him do major projects. Gus knew what he wanted, and the core members of his pack were attuned to that. He wanted quality, luxury, extravagance, fantasy. They wouldn't be here if they didn't believe in his vision. The Urbane Pack was one of the most successful business pack on the planet. Well, under-budgeted but well-made. Sometimes I don't know how you did it. The finance team would be pleased. Magic, Gus muttered. He wasn't in a good mood. Cheer up, Gus. I know something that will bring a smile to your face. I've got a date for you tomorrow night. Did you sign me up on Super Tinder? Because alpha or not, Gus was gonna commit murder if he did. Marcus shook his head. Some guests came, and I chatted them up. One of them is curvy, and is a social media influencer. You might like her. She's cute. Gus muttered something non-committal. Marcus left Gus to his work. He had other rounds to make before he had dinner with Nina and the kids. He would be forever grateful that Nina was in his life. She took her role being the First Lady of Wolves very seriously. Many of his roles she took over. Sometimes he can only take so much of whining grown wolves. Some of his pack members called at all hours since they were located all over the world. They'd ask him for advice, rant about other pack members, or just unload their day on him. As Alpha, he should make time for this, but the CEO in him had many tasks. Between Nina and Ryan, he was able to function properly. Rose knew she can't live in the van forever. It's been 4 weeks now. She was making some serious cash, but serious cash or not, she needed more than that. To rent an apartment, she needed 2 months worth of deposit and a month of advanced rent. Her income wasn't fully hers. 40% went to Wolves, as per contract. Then 10% went to Aunt Mariah because she got Rose's opportunity. She'd pay Aunt Mariah back someday. 10% was nothing compared to what she gave Rose. This opportunity was once in a lifetime, and the werewolves were taking good care of her. The moment she woke up in that hotel room, things looked up for her. Her tent was already set up by Gus, and it was very luxurious. Clients came, and she had consultations right away. Then her tab wouldn't stop pinging. Potential clients were interested. It seemed the marketing team made a big deal of her coming to Wolves. Aunt Mariah told her what to charge. It was higher than what she normally charged back home, but she was right. Her clients in Manila didn't bat an eye. Didn't bat an eyebrow at her price. She had a growing list of clients. The resort's tablet organized her calendar and her clients on a schedule. There was a booking app that the clients downloaded, and it was used to book anything at Wolves. It had a lot of functions. Her clients could put in the appointment straight into the system, and she'd be notified of their appointment. The clients can already see what services she offered and her rates. Feeling at home, she decided to put her own little touches into the tent. Since there was a no open flame policy at Wolves, she had to resort to LED lamps that looked like candles. Her crystal collection was around the table. These crystals were mostly given to her by her friends, and some picked up when she hiked. Let me change this. These crystals were mostly from second-hand shops, and some she picked up when she hiked. She even put up some posters she painted around the tent. It was a conversation point in which she would know the direction when her clients would ask. Something like a Rorschach test. El made himself scarce that week. Rose was still angry at him. She decided to redecorate as a way to claim her space and channel her frustration. She was getting comfortable here. She knew things like these didn't last. Rose stood up and opened her tent flap. She was overcome with a strange feeling that someone was watching her. What was she thinking? There was always someone watching her. The Urbane Pack promised to only avail of their 40% off if there weren't any other full price customer in the tent. They kept glancing at her tent, looking to see if there was a client or not. When they didn't see anyone, they knocked and had their cards read. Caleb told her that werewolves were the most superstitious creatures on the planet. They did things with the moon cycle, and no, not because there was any magical reason to it. Some of their celebrations under the moonlight were just customs, while others were superstitious belief. She thought the Philippine province was littered with strange biddies. These grown men were taking it to the extreme. Gus always had his cards read. He had them read every Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. He was looking for a girlfriend. Unfortunately, it was not in his cards yet. He huffed every time she tells him not today. At least he was a loyal customer. After a week, she was able to tell which were werewolves and which were other kinds of supernatural scent. She had some low level of witch's blood, so she could see a bit of aura that manifested as colored halos on top of each person. Gus had a wash of different colors. The man was looking for something while being confused. She was beginning to feel at home with the pack. She knew most of the pack by name and face. She knew the maintenance and auxiliary personnel that worked in the plaza. She knew the guards watched the plaza, too. Rose went out of her tent to stand by the plaza because people were still wary. Because people were still wary of the virus, there weren't many tourists and guests in the resort. The plaza only had a couple of people sitting in the nearby cafe. Perhaps if she had more witch blood, she'd be able to see more clearly. She'd be more like Aunt Mariah. Gus came striding by. It was Friday, so it was time to read his cards. Marcus got me another date tonight. I hope she's the one. Can you do a reading? Sure, come in. They entered the tiny tent, and all at once Gus gasped and sneezed. What is all this? Sandalwood and sage. I was cleansing an aura this afternoon, she answered. Actually, the sandalwood came in the form of a discarded soapbox, while the sage was something she asked for from the kitchen. She had this feeling all week, like an impending doom. It was like a storm you knew was about to hit, but didn't know what day the storm would hit. One thing she was certain of, it had something to do with her, and it would happen here at Wolves. Instead of reading her card, she chose to clear the bad feeling instead. It hadn't cleared, and it worried her. Oh, okay, but I mean these. He pointed to the posters and the crystals. She even crocheted a doily for the console table. What? Rose was confused. These weren't here the last time, he huffed as he pointed to the new things added in the tent. Everything looks different. Confused, she looked around, trying to see what he found so offensive in them. Oh, I changed the position of the pillows and console table. I didn't like the clients with their backs toward the tent flap, so this layout makes them feel more secure. It did put a lot of them at ease. And I put my finishing touches. She thought the faded posters looked nostalgic as they were vintage and eclectic. And the eclectic thing she added made her look mysterious to people. As they had a vintage vibe. Let me change this. Uh-oh. Alright. She thought the faded posters looked nostalgic as they had a vintage vibe, and the eclectic thing she added made her look more mysterious to people. Mad Mariah didn't have these, he mumbled. She frowned. Is there a problem with my additions? It took a few seconds of assessment before he spoke. Nothing wrong, but it's not what it's supposed to be. You mean your original decor? He scrunched his nose. This wasn't how Mariah had her pop-up tent. That's not my style. Don't witches follow a particular style? Who made that rule? Do you want to criticize my poster or do you want a reading? I can't get over these. He crossed his arms, giving her a pout. It would have been annoying if he wasn't cute. Right now, he was being unreasonable. Well, if you don't want to have a reading, you can step out so a potential customer can come in. Knock, knock. Oh, hi, Gus. Marcus's head came through the tent flap. Are you done? He's done. Great, my turn. Marcus came in. I've got a business meeting coming soon, and I'd love a reading. Lovely posters. It's so abstract. Thanks. Gus didn't think so. Have a seat. Rose looked at Gus and waited for him to exit. There were a few seconds of resistance before the wolf huffed and left. Marcus sat on the pillows, but he seemed to still look so big in the tent. He didn't like his reading? Rose laughed. He didn't like the decor, but I'm an earth element, so I need home touches to ground me. What seems to be the problem? Marcus explained his business meeting in as vague a way as he can. Rose wanted to laugh. The man clearly didn't want to say what the business deal was, but he wanted an accurate read. Is there anything in the cards that might tell me if this business deal will go north or south? These cards aren't the right fit for that. She placed the oracle cards back in the deck holder and took an ordinary set of playing cards from her bag. Don't think, just grab a card, any card. She threw the cards on the table, right side up. Marcus immediately grabbed 9 of diamonds. Marcus gave back the card, and she shuffled it back to the deck. What does that mean? She didn't need oracle cards to know he was stressed about this deal. This deal is high stake. Very. You're a Libra. You want to be fair, but be treated fairly in this deal as well. Since Caleb told her how superstitious werewolves were, she made it a point to research their star signs. Some came in conversation, while some she saw in the bulletin boards. There was an employee bulletin boards that announced birthdays, anniversaries, and other events. Yes, that's right. I don't want to shortchange the person, but they can't eat an arm and a leg's worth, Marcus agreed. If he's a Gemini, you'll be fine. You'll get along. Wine and dine him, explain simply all the terms you want, and you'll get along just fine. Marcus nodded, then frowned. What if he's not a Gemini? If he's a Pisces or Sagittarius, you'll still get along. They'll see the reason. In fact, they want to know your reason, your core values, before they decide. Capricorns will get as much out of you as they think is fair. Marcus nodded, taking it all in. Be careful if he's an Aries, Leo, or Scorpio. They'll want to take as much as they can. I'll get Ryan to research their star signs right away. Rose took out a credit card console and Marcus gave his card to be swiped. He thanked her and left. Gus was still outside the tent. Oh, are you having a reading or not? Still deciding. These posters are staying, Rose insisted from inside the tent. Marcus pulled him physically. Come on, you can help me get ready for this meeting, hothead. Rose didn't understand what the fuss was about. She thought this was her tent, that she could have a free rein on what she could do. All she did was rearrange the furniture, hang a few posters, and put her things on the table. What was the problem? Gus clearly had a particular aesthetic in mind. It wasn't hers. She wasn't clashing with the decor or the theme of the plaza. Besides, Gus made the tent look too eclectic to begin with. She just added her touch to it. She loved being here. Business was picking up. She was making friends with many people at Wolves. It was definitely different from back home. Back home she felt lost and out of place, even among her family. Here, nobody knew her, but everybody accepted her right away. It was very refreshing. Now she hoped they would accept her even if she stayed in her van without a place to stay. One day she'll get her own place. It would be nice and would have all the finishing touches she wanted. She didn't need anywhere big, just a place where she could bring her crystal collection and maybe add to it. Her console beeped. There was a message for her. She frowned when she read it. Uncle Thomas was asking for his money back. Rose explained what Elso told her. He replied, "You're stupid if you believe him. Send me my money back. Good luck collecting from that useless garbage." Rose sighed. She was stupid. Why did she believe El? She thought she could get out of her debt. Now it was still there. She went to the nearest ATM machine and wired Uncle Thomas the money she owed. That afternoon she ran to her van for a quick change and was not surprised to find El hanging inside it. She must have forgotten to lock her door. Out! She didn't have time for him today. I'm not smoking in it anymore. He was lying down on her bedroll and blanket. She made a mental note to have them laundered. Elle didn't really like taking showers. I don't want to believe you anymore, Elle. Uncle Thomas said he never lent you the money. He's asking for it back. I'll give it to him eventually. Look, I earned some money today. You got a job? I got a gig. What's a gig? Don't ask. I'm making some money on the side, and soon we can rent a room and live somewhere comfy. She sighed. I wired him the money already, so you'll have to pay me back. Don't worry, Rosie. The money will be part of our house fund. You're still not staying in my van. Out. Be that way. I'm gonna have fun tonight. Rose didn't have time for fun. She worked these days. There was nothing else to do but work or work out. She didn't want to spend money, so she didn't want to wander around Manila. She ate at the employees' cafeteria and ate wherever there was free food. She made sure to eat at Wolves. If she ate in her van, Elle would somehow know and take her food. He wasn't quite he was quite rude in grabbing her food. He always told her he was doing her a favor, that she didn't need to gain more weight. She should be eating less and working out more. Elle was thin, but that was partly genes. Most of his family members were thin. He and the rest of the family teased her about her weight. That was one thing they had in common. His family teased her for being big. At times they teased her for sticking it with Elle. But Rose and Elle had been together for 10 years. She loved Elle. He knew her. Yeah, he had some annoying traits, but she was willing to put up with him. Elle was the only person who took away her loneliness. Most days she felt pathetic and weak. She wished Gus was her boyfriend. She didn't feel lonely with Gus. But how did he see her? Would Gus see her as girlfriend material? She had nothing to her name but this old rickety van. This buffets probably cost more than this old van. To make herself feel better, she went to the pastry cafe at the gardens at Wolves. It had cheesecake and other things. Rose ordered a chocolate lava cake and an Oreo cheesecake. They had pretty big slices, so it was worth it. She looked at the other table and saw a couple having a date. They took photos of their cake, probably going to post it on Instagram. Then they fed each other the cheesecake. She lowered her head, not wanting to draw attention. Whenever she ate back home, somebody would always comment on it. Most days she ate inside her van. Even in her grandmother's house, her grandmother and aunt weren't exactly the warmest. They didn't like her line of work, and they didn't like how much she ate. Now she couldn't even eat in her van because Elle was there and took her food. Rose knew she'd been eating her feelings for years. She couldn't help it. She loved good food. Wolves had world-class food. She couldn't help but close her eyes when she bit into the lava cake. This lava cake could give the cheesecake a run for its money. But still she loved cheesecake. It was savory, creamy, and not as sweet as the chocolate lava cake. End of chapter 4. Hi everyone. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed writing it. And I hope you join me for tomorrow as I read another chapter of Big Bad Wolf meets Big Beautiful Mate. So, bye for now, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, and please comment down below what you like, what didn't you like, any suggestions. This book is not yet finished. Thanks, everyone.